This video will be discussing the concept of skills versus capacities, focusing on the movement of the clean. We'll be looking at two different athletes, one with a limitation in their motor skills and one with a limitation in terms of their physical capacity to perform the clean. We'll start by looking at the athlete who has a limitation in terms of his motor skills when performing the clean. And we can see that this athlete does actually have the physical capacity regarding mobility to get down into a deep squat position with his knees forward and accessing a reasonable amount of dorsiflexion at the ankle. At the bottom of the squat, he's able to maintain a fairly neutral spine and drop his pelvis below the line of parallel. We can see that the athlete is able to keep his elbows nice and high, resting the bar on his anterior deltoids, and he's able to maintain this position, or this nice high elbow position, throughout the squat all the way into the deep squat position. This means that the bar is closer to his centre of mass, and is another example of this athlete having the capacity in terms of his mobility to get into the correct positions when receiving the bar during the clean movement. Limitations in motor skills can be seen when we start to try and put the component parts of the clean movement together. We can see that the athlete is starting in a shallow squat position despite showing the capacity earlier to get down into a deep squat. The athlete is not fully completing triple extension with a lack of plantar flexion occurring at the floor and the hips not being thrust far enough forwards. The athlete is also not shrugging at the top of the movement and is bending his elbows far too early to lift the bar. Now, unfortunately, my athlete became injured, so I was unable to film him carrying out the drills that I would use to enhance his motor skills when performing the clean. But a box jump is certainly an exercise that I'd use in his training to enhance the triple extension function and encourage him to drive his hips forwards during the clean. I'd also look to use exercises such as jump shrugs with coaching cues such as aggressively extending the hips forwards and jumping off the ground to emphasize triple extension. At the top of the position, to aggressively shrug the shoulders, keeping the arms straight with the bar hanging, and trying to touch the ears with the shoulders, and flexing the elbows at the top of the shrug rather than further down. This athlete has a limitation in terms of their capacity in the form of a lack of mobility, and there appears to be a lack of mobility through the posterior aspect of the shoulder, which prevents them from getting their elbows high and the bar close to the body, resting on the anterior deltoids. There is also a lack of capacity in terms of mobility at the ankle, with dorsiflexion being limited to enable the athlete to get into a deep squat. Compensatory movements can be seen from a posterior view, with pronation occurring at the ankle with the heels turning in and knee valgus occurring. This lack of mobility at both the ankle and the shoulder brings the bar forwards, preventing the athlete from dropping down into the hole and the bottom of the squat, and bringing their centre of mass over the mid to forefoot. This footage is actually of the athlete performing the clean movement for the very first time, and due to an unfamiliarity with the task, we can see a definite limitation in terms of his motor skills when trying to put all of the phases of the clean together. This would indicate that motor skill and physical capacity limitations are not mutually exclusive, and they can be seen in tandem in one athlete. This athlete was soon able to put the phases of the clean together and improve his motor skills, leaving him with a deficit regarding his mobility. To make improvements to this athlete's lack of capacity in terms of their mobility, the initial focus was on the ankle using knee to wall touches to stretch out the posterior calf complex, as well as band lunges to provide resistance to the anterior translation of the tibia on the talus at the talocrural joint. The sleeper stretch has also been carried out to improve flexibility through the posterior joint capsule to enable the athlete to get his elbows higher during the clean movement. We can see improvements here in terms of the height of the elbow, just making out the elbow in front of the bar. There is still a slight hint of the heel lifting up off the floor, but this athlete is showing improved capacity for getting into the deep squat position with the pelvis below parallel and the back straight. Greater improvements can be seen here with the athlete demonstrating a much greater capacity in terms of shoulder and ankle mobility to get the elbows high and the bar over the centre of mass with the weight through the heel rather than the forefoot. We've seen two athletes here with limitations during the clean, one with a motor control limitation and the other with limited mobility. I'm of the opinion that the two types of limitations are not mutually exclusive, and we've seen one athlete display both motor control and capacity limitations. In conclusion, as strength and conditioning coaches, we should therefore look to address both motor skill and capacity deficits in our athletes and consider how one can impact on the other.